There are ministries whose main purpose is to look at what's happening in the church today and to say, hey, there is significant error here, or we're warning you about this or about that. Some of them are called discernment ministries. Is this a biblical concept? Is this a good concept? Well, first, let's look at what the scriptures say in 1 John. 1 John chapter 4, verse 1. John wrote, "Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, for many false prophets have gone out into the world." Well, throughout the scripture, from the Old Testament into the New Testament, there are many warnings against deception. And there are many warnings against false prophets and false teachers and people who appear to be angels of light but are actually angels of darkness. So by all means, we need to be discerning. By all means, we need to do what Paul said about prophecy in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, test all things and hold fast to that which is good. And there are ministries that have done an excellent job of this. We know who they are. We know who the leaders are. We know what they believe. They themselves are accountable, and it can be good and healthy. I've also seen the negative side of so-called discernment ministries. Some of them are anonymous. You don't know who they are. You don't know if it's some 16-year-old kid just posting in his computer in the basement of his house. You don't know if it's some leader who's been excommunicated for adultery. You don't know if it's someone with all kinds of heterodox beliefs and they're unaccountable and generally speaking, they don't reach out to those they differ with. They just blast them. So I have an issue with the unaccountable, anonymous, so-called discernment ministries. And I also have an issue with the dogmatism of many of them. In other words, they are so rigid and narrow in what they believe that everybody outside their little circle is a heretic. And you'll go to the website, you'll see listed just about every known Christian leader. I'm exaggerating slightly. You know, all these known Christian leaders, and many of them highly respected, they're on their hit list. This one says this one says this. Well, with the measure you judge, you're going to be judged. And many of them are strongly anti-charismatic. They're not just non-charismatic, they're strongly anti-charismatic. Well, I could blast them then as being in serious error based on Scripture and misleading the flock based on Scripture. Others are strongly dispensationalist, and fine, there are plenty of brothers and sisters who are dispensationalists, but then to judge others who are not dispensationalists as if they're heretics, that creates a real problem and issue for me. So by all means, all of us should be discerning. All of us should test things by the word and by the fruit. The creedal test, what do you believe, and the moral test, how do you live? We should test ministries by that. We should test teachings by that as much as we can, by all means. And there are discernment ministries that do a good job, but I've run into a bunch that do a very bad job. They're unethical in the way they confront themselves. They use unequal weights and measures to condone what they believe and condemn others. And those I would call to account and say, step higher, my brother, my sister.